Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tatiana Show. Today, I'm joined with my co-host, Josh. Josh, how are you doing today?
I am wonderful, just waking up here in wonderful, beautiful Perth. I haven't been back to Australia for a long time, so it's really, really been lovely to meet all the gold bugs and the crypto bugs down this way.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you're enjoying some. Wait, is it summertime over there yet, or is it sort of springtime, I guess?
Yeah, it's sort of springtime. It's been really beautiful, but actually, it's just I've never been to Perth, and guys, get down here if you ever want to plan a holiday. It's just stunning. It's really that picturesque mega aqua blue that you see on, travel photos where you think, oh yeah, they've just pumped the blue values in Photoshop. No, this is it's just stunning. It's a really nice way. So I took a little bit of a digital detox and just enjoyed that before the fundraising session for Voltoro 2.0.
Yeah, was that voluntary, or did Facebook just cut you off recently?
Yeah. No, I mean, I actually dumped Facebook. I've still got an account, but I just don't use it. I use Messenger a little bit, and I guess WhatsApp. You can't help online but be part of the Facebook monolith through some of their apps. But yeah, I just sort of cut for a little while. It's really, really hard to actually have a digital detox. I find it extraordinarily hard.
I don't really know if you've had
that.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's full. Tatiana's questioning whether you're really detox if you're on this thing,
Well, also, I've been talking to you on WhatsApp, and I've been emailing you and stuff, so I don't know what's going on there.
Well, I mean, when I say digital detox, it's a scale. Like my life is just permanently in a screen usually, whereas in the last week it's been like half time, which is detox enough.
Well, that's
I don't want to go into withdrawal symptoms,
Okay. These days, you can get practically everything on demand, like our podcast. Listen whenever you want, whenever it's convenient for you. Did you know you can even get postage on demand? All you need is stamps.com. I've been using stamps.com, and it's saving me a ton of time. Now, going to the post office is okay. Sometimes it's better to see someone in person, but the amount of things that you can get done from home is astounding. You can buy and print real U.S. postage for any letter or any package. It's all available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you guys know that I have a crazy travel schedule, so it's not always easy to get over there. And all you have to do is just click, print, mail, and you're done. Stamps.com will even send you a digital scale. You can weigh your letters and packages and print the exact amount of postage every time. I've been using it, like I said before, thank God, because I know that when I'm traveling, sometimes I can't even make it over to the post office. I just use my stamps.com, make it a little printout, and boom, I'm out of there. And I give you all my personal recommendation. Try it out. Go to stamps.com. Right now, use Moroz for this special offer, MOROZ. It gives you a 4-week free trial. It includes postage and a digital scale. Don't wait. Go to stamps.com before you do anything else. Click on the radio microphone on the top of the homepage and type in Moroz. That's stamps.com. Enter Moroz, and then you can get your 4-week free trial. You can be like everybody on the Tatiana Show, stamping it up at stamps.com. Great. So I'm glad that you're having a good time down there. Are you going to join me in World CryptoCon? Because I'm going. So the show today, I feel like we're getting a little bit of a rough start because Kevin is on with us right from the get-go. It's very, very exciting. He's excited to be here. So we're all in it.
Kevin McKernan, the famed.
Indeed. So
I'm always happy to have him on the show.
Well, Kevin's been on the show before, and we've also got Naomi Brockwell. So there's going to be all this talk of all these upcoming events. This show is airing the week of all of these events. So Kevin, when is CannaMed and what is CannaMed? And for people who haven't listened to you on any previous episodes, why don't you give us an introduction to all those things?
So CanMed is a medical cannabis conference that last 2 years we held it at Harvard Medical School. And it usually draws around 500 or 600 people. And this year we moved it out to the West Coast just to be in vogue with all the California legalization that's going on. So it's at UCLA starting Monday. And the first day is actually doing all what are known as CME credits. These are continuing medical education credits for many of the physicians that attend, so they can get more established for cannabinoid use. And prescriptions and whatnot. So that's happening Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday are scientific conferences. Well, there'll be a handful of researchers talking about the genetics of the plant, some growers talking about how to maximize yield. There's a couple of the large Canadian publicly traded companies that many have probably heard of, like Tilray, that are participating. And then we also have a crypto track, largely because Dash funded this. So I threw in a Dash proposal. When was it? Back December, like 26th or something. It's my Christmas Eve activity, and they funded it to sponsor this. And we're having a crypto track there. And we're going to teach a lot of the folks in the cannabis field about cryptocurrency, because there is still a banking crisis in cannabis.
Yeah, how cool is that you guys got funded by the Dash DAO? For the folks.
Yeah, what was that process like? Was that difficult? Because I always looked at it and I hesitate. It looks like it would be hard, but when the guys were on the show, we had the Dashy guys on the show, and they had basically said that it wasn't that difficult. So what did you think?
So in December last year, I would say, well, it sailed through. We had a really well-received application. I put in another proposal a couple months later to do some DNA sequencing, which we'll touch on. And that one was a little bit harder. That one took 2 or 3 times to get through, but the process isn't hard. You do have to spend a fair amount of time socializing and understanding the network and who they are and what what their philosophy is, and what types of things they need help with. Because they don't just fund random things. They tend to try and find things that can really spread the market awareness or spread the transaction volumes of the currency. So we put one in knowing that they had been previously funding a variety of efforts into the cannabis field, from Alt36 making ATMs, and I think they're even looking at some seed to sale tracking blockchains. So we threw it in saying, let's get all that stuff in front of the people in the cannabis industry. That way you guys can get better market penetration. And they jumped all over that. And once I saw that they were game in the space, I realized, well, we should probably do something really epic for the field, so that we can show off more than just a Dash banner sort of sponsorship of the thing. Let's actually sequence a cannabis genome and take down some cannabis patents that are out there. And so they eventually jumped all over that as well. So there's really 2 Dash proposals that are being co-funded right now that are all ending in a couple weeks, that are all going to be shown off.
Hey, can I just back it up a bit for the listeners that don't know what we're talking about? First of all, Dash is a cryptocurrency. It is it's a fairly old one. It's been around for a very long time, and it not only has Bitcoin. Everyone knows Bitcoin has Bitcoin mining, and that mining process helps pay the humans to build computing hardware to secure the network. Well, Dash does the same, but it also not only pays miners, but pays humans into a fund, or pays into a fund that humans can propose certain things to, and then the network of people that own a certain amount of Dash can vote on certain proposals, and these are the proposals we're talking about, and that's the one that Kevin put a proposal in for.
Yeah, I think you've had one as well, Josh. What was your experience? Because you guys threw out a gold interchange with Dash really quickly.
Yeah, so that's right. We put a proposal in for Vaultoro. For those that don't know, we're a Bitcoin and physical allocated gold marketplace where people can trade between those two. And we've been going for 4.5 years, but we thought, right, it's, when we first started, Bitcoin was the only one. Maybe there was Litecoin and Namecoin and a few others, but now the ecosystem's really bloomed to show that, hey, Bitcoin isn't the only one. We have now Dash, of course, and a plethora of thousands of different currencies doing lots of different things, including ICOs. And I came to realize that really ICOs are what's changing money, not just Bitcoin, because ICOs allow for new projects to open up and be funded, but not only that, for people to have shares in certain protocols, certain companies that are transferable tokens. So shares and stocks and bonds and all these things start to become not only what they are traditionally, but also mediums of exchange. So in the future, everyone will be trading this stuff. So we thought, right, let's do Vaultoro 2.0, and let's get funded from one of these from some of these mechanisms within, because I really love to stay within the crypto ecosystem. Why go to a VC, right?
Yeah.
And so we put a proposal into the Dash DAO. That's a decentralized autonomous organization for the folks at home. And yeah, it wasn't easy. You have to put up 5 Dash for because that sort of filters out spam to put a proposal in, and to show that you're serious. And then, yeah, like you said, there's a lot of community outreach, a lot of talking to the masternode owners and getting in there and really justifying why you want this funding and how it's going to help the Dash ecosystem. And
how do you know the masternode owners?
Well, you don't. And this is what's amazing is that it's all anonymous. Some out themselves and say, I'm a masternode owner, but you don't really even know unless they sign a private key to show that they do own a masternode, which they don't. Most people don't. You just have to go onto the forums and I mean, there is a certain forum that's behind that you have to be a masternode to sign in and be a part of this hidden forum. So you can get in there if you know someone that's got a masternode and help you talk to those guys. So it is a little bit walled to a certain extent, but most of the time it's not. It's very open, and you just basically have to show the virtues of what you're doing. And yeah, it's not easy. There's been some amazing protocols. I mean, what's happening now, and Kevin, tell me what you think, but I'm finding as the price decline in this bear market's happened, a lot of people have been pulling in really tightening up their budgets in terms of everywhere in the field. I mean, Coinbase's volume has dropped by 80% in this bear market, and that goes to proposals like Dash DAO where they don't have as much money anymore. So the Dash DAO also pays for the core developers and a lot of other stuff. So there's been some proposals like really amazing people in Africa, for instance, reaching out to have point of sale terminals and all this sort of thing. But the projects like what Kevin is doing with sequencing the genomes of cannabis, I mean, how cool is that this stuff also gets funded even in this bear market?
Yeah, and that wasn't a shoo-in. I mean, that to that point, in I would say probably March and May was when it got really ugly because the currency went down from like 1,200 down to like 200. In that time frame, everyone's budgets, no one had the ability to really hedge the currency vol on this stuff. And that's one thing I think there's some chatter in the Dash network about them perhaps building the capacity for the proposal owners to hedge. That way there's a collar on the price and you don't have to worry about the currency vol and you can get your stuff done. But what can happen easily is when those prices collapse, everything you put into your proposal and what you're planning to do suddenly has to get readjusted on the fly to deal with the fact that you're getting these monthly payments. So, and the other thing that I think keeps people really on their toes is that they can pull that monthly money at any month. And we had a moment like that in one of our projects where something was going on, where something else needed funding, and we were kind of low on the rank on one of our projects, and it went into the no funding category 4 days after they funded it. And totally scared us, but we, quickly hustled and got back on the forums to, explain why we were worth keeping. And it's a good thing it happened because there's now a Dash Labs that is looking to replicate what we did and take it on a much bigger scale. They're now talking about taking over peer review with this. Which is something that we put in our proposals, that if we're going to get funded to sequence a cannabis genome in 5 months, there's no way we can deal with the traditional peer review system. That thing's broken, and it takes 5 months alone to get something through that. So we're going to publish this on blockchains and skip all that. And we proposed a mechanism to do that, and they've since also announced that they're gonna go for that at Dash Labs and try and build higher transaction volumes by getting the entire 20 billion academic publishing market onto these blockchains.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, that hedging mechanism is exactly what we're doing as well. Is where once we've launched the Dash side, Dash owners will and these proposal owners will be able to hedge in gold, so they don't need to touch fiat because.
Well, you can do that now for the Dash projects. You got to shout that from the rooftops in those forums, because I would have been all over that if any of that was possible.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't launched yet. We're still, because of the decline again, because of the decline in price, we've had to scale back the development of it, the speed of it. So it just meant the speed was a bit slower. But we'll be launching that in February, so that'll be great.
Oh, excellent.
But yeah, the cannabis stuff. Let's go dive a little bit deeper into that.
Go into the weeds.
How does this? Yeah, let's go into the weeds a bit. For those that don't know, I mean, a lot of people still, and I still get this, Kevin. It boggles the brain. But a lot of people, when you say medical marijuana, they go, "Oh yeah, that's just people pretending." They hobble into one of these places and tell their doctor they need cannabis because of the pain. And they sort of use it as an excuse to get some drugs, but it's ludicrous for the folks that don't know. I actually have a pacemaker, and the pacemaker was broken. I went to many people, cardiologists, to try to fix what was happening with my rhythm, and they couldn't fix it. And I ended up having to hack my own pacemaker. 2 years into trying, I ended up hacking myself. I read all the paperwork after a while because they wanted to open me up again, and I said, no, it's a computer issue. I'm not going to let someone burn little things off. So I ended up hacking it myself and getting the cardiologist to plug me in and told him what things to follow and do, and we fixed it. But at the end, there was still some atrial fibrillation going on, and that wasn't a mechanical problem. And then after talking to you last time you were on the show, you mentioned that CBD oil might be something that can fix this.
Yes, it is. So my sister is a cardiologist, and she puts in pacemakers and does ablations and all this. And so we have a genetic variant in our family. So I don't know how well this applies to every other individual out there, because when you look at the genetic diversity that you see in atrial fibrillation, it's quite broad. There are people that have mutations in probably 300 to 400 different genes that can cause it. And so they all have sort of different effects. But ours is an ryanodine receptor, and this one was my brother has it, everyone in our family has it, and he's been able to treat his completely with CBD. I can also get mine to go back into rhythm with a vape pen. As long as it's the THC has to be it's usually got to be a 10-to-1 at least in order for the CBD to put us back into rhythm. But we've done this on these, we carry around these little iPhone-based EKGs where whenever we get out of rhythm, we can put our thumbs on that, get an EKG measurement on the fly, and dose ourselves and see it go back into rhythm. And so it's a really profound effect, and it's not actually that surprising, because when you look at the biochemistry of CBD and where it's showing success, it's in epilepsy. And epilepsy is very much oftentimes a channelopathy that is it's like AFib is almost like your cardiac tissue having a seizure, if you will. So some of the same genes are mutated in epilepsy as they are in many of these genetic AFibs. So it's a possibility that it can work for, I think there's like 6 million people in the country that have AFib. It's a pretty broad disease category.
It's probably the most common heart disease.
My dad has AFib all the time. He likes to tell me about turmeric and cayenne pepper, and he likes them better than the drugs. Oh, and the Coumadin. He said that, no. Yeah, he says there's some kind of like a supplement that he takes, and his doctor tried to get him to take drugs, and he's like, I'm not taking it. It's like Quaratina or something like that. I don't remember. Do you know what I'm talking about, Kevin?
I'm sorry, what was the name of the fluoxetine or?
No, it's like Quara. It's like literally something you buy over the counter. It's like an herb or
CoQ10 probably.
That's that's what what I think he takes, and he likes it better than the drugs that the doctors give him, but they don't like it. That can happen.
Sometimes the calcium channel blockers or beta blockers don't behave, and turmeric is another one you find people using in epilepsy as well. I think it has a similar effect as CBD on calcium channels. So it's there are other ways to tackle this that maybe if you know, a little bit more natural, if you will. But all that being said, natural or not, that's a little bit of a sort of a pharmacological fallacy. I mean, all of these compounds come from plants. Like 25% of the pharmacopoeia comes out of a plant, and we just, you know, FDA takes ownership of it and calls it something else when they finally purify it and do some type of double-blind ritual down there, right? But the plants make a tremendous amount of compounds, and we shouldn't be afraid of them just because the FDA hasn't looked at them.
No, that's right. So now, how does your research fit into all of this? How does it help the medical marijuana industry?
So the Dash proposal in general, that one was going after type 2 cannabis plants. These are plants that make both CBD and THC, and they're believed to be the most medicinal plants out there because through prohibition, everyone started breeding for high THC, and that has come at the cost of all the other cannabinoids not being made. When you kind of push these plants to making cannabinoid specific chemotypes, they're all competing for the same carbon sources upstream of that pathway. So when they make like 25% THC, it's coming at the cost of it making any CBD or any of the other rare cannabinoids and probably many of the monoterpenes in the plant. So they find when you have these mixtures, they tend to be more therapeutic cannabinoid cocktails. And so one of those plants had never been sequenced before. And so we decided we target that one for Dash. But it was also the controversial topic regarding a cannabis patent. In 2015, the federal government started issuing really broad cannabis patents because the USPTO wasn't very well, the U.S. Trade and Patent Office, or Patent and Trade Office, wasn't very well versed on any of the cannabis literature. And frankly, it's a little thin because not everyone's like raising their hand with their research in cannabis, right? It's something people have been keeping really close to the vest and not admitting that they're actually doing it. So they're not very well versed in the field, so they issue very, very broad patents, and that has created a little bit of an outrage in the field that this plant, any plant that makes both THC and CBD, is now owned by one mysterious biotech company. So we didn't think that was actually a legitimate patent because we believe the natural state of the plant is actually to make both, and it was really man-modified into making lots of THC. If anything, THC plants should be patentable because you actually bred something if you believe in patents, but not the native state of it. And so we found, we did some sleuthing on the internet and found some particular lines that were recorded in 2007 that made both CBD and THC, which was roughly 6 years before this patent was filed. And we targeted those and sequenced them and put everything public. And shortly after that, we got contacted by a large consortium up in Canada that has been funded by a lot of these publicly traded cannabis companies to try and kill this patent. And they've been funding the prosecution of it and the protest of it up there. And they called us after we put this public and said, let's join forces here and see if we can do some more work, because they had not seen this particular plant that we found. They had put forward to the USPTO a couple of other ones that people may have heard of, like Amrita and maybe Charlotte's Web and a few of these other ones that have been in the news. But they had not found this one called Jamaican Lion, and this one looks like there's actually hard digital evidence from 2007 and prior to 2013 that this thing made both THC and CBD, and now we know its genotype. And the reason it's valuable to have the DNA is now anyone can just simply sequence their genome, compare it to this, and if it's X% close, then therefore it does not fall under the patent. And that's kind of the intent.
So these different strains were found in different parts of the world, right? So
yeah,
is that correct? I mean, yeah. So that's kind of interesting for me. I found that because originally I thought a lot of the cannabis came out of Mexico. But really, there was a European strain, there was a South American strain, there was also an Asian strain.
There are a lot of it's. They think some of the origins, like 20 million years ago, go back to the Hindu Kush area, and that's right. There was a diaspora out of there, largely fueled by humans because they needed the fiber for the sails, and the oil from the seeds was something that predated whale oil. And so it was a source to move the navies. And so James Cook was famous for bringing it down to your territory because the first thing he did when he got to Australia is planted hemp. And so the evidence of hemp getting into Australia really is kind of late. It was like in the when was Cook there? 18?
Oh God, yeah, him and his endeavor.
Yeah, I'm not good on that part of history, but the hemp down there, they believe, dates to him putting down seeds so that he could build new sales to get home.
Fascinating. And so these different strains have different levels of THC and different cannabinoids. Can you explain what a cannabinoid is for the audience? Because I think they also what a terpene is.
Yeah,
those
sure.
are terms, and people are like, huh? And I'm one of those people.
So a lot of plants will make terpenes. Grapes probably make like 40 different terpenes that you might have that impact wine. Hops, a close cousin to cannabis, makes terpenes as well. These are short carbon molecules that are usually anywhere between usually less than 21 carbons. Once they get up to about 21 carbons, they look more like triterpenes or cannabinoids. But they're short.
Is that what gives it the smell?
Yes, the cannabinoids are odorless, but the terpenes, since their carbon lengths are very short, they tend to be more volatile, meaning they outgas a lot, and you can smell them, and they tend to zip right through some plastic bags because of the nature of the chemistry. They're small carbon molecules that dissolve through that stuff, so you can smell this stuff from far away, and that's mostly from things like you might smell myrcene, which is also in mangoes, and humulene, which is also in hops. You'll also find pinene, which is often in a lot of evergreen, but that has some positive effects on your memory. There's limonene, which tends to be a little bit more calming. Limonene's in lemons, and then linalool it will also make, which is in lavender. So the crazy thing about cannabis is it seems to be able to make all of these other terpenes, and then you go to all the other domesticated products, and they seem to only make one or two of them. So it's this really diverse bouquet that comes out of the plant, which makes it so incredibly interesting from a pharmacology standpoint. But it happens to be fairly unique in its capacity to fold these things. You have to almost view them as like Legos. And with cannabinoids, the Legos get a little bit bigger, up to like 21 carbons. And cannabis is really the only plant we know that makes those. And so it's somewhat unique in that regard, that it chains them up into these really, much larger molecules that then seem to have an impact on a lot of mammalian cannabinoid receptors.
It's fascinating. So are there any perfumes made from these?
Yes.
Terpenes?
Yeah, they are perfumes. It's mostly a terpene market, and sometimes people are making them synthetically. Other times they're extracting them out of the plants. There's also some pesticides people will make out of these. So, for instance, chrysanthemums are grown mostly above 7,000 feet, I think, in Kenya, because they express a particular terpene known as pyrethrin, which happens to be a very good insecticide, and that's probably the number one used natural insecticide for spraying on crops. So there's a whole host of uses for them. Some of them are therapeutic. Some of them are aromatherapies are used in perfumes, and sometimes are even used for pests.
It's amazing to me when I hear in the past these governments just shut down an entire industry, an entire body of research because of one effect, and then people will laugh and people will say, "Oh no, it's just for drug addicts and this and that," and you see the same thing with, for instance, betting. Betting has now that these decentralized betting markets have all these other capabilities, like prediction markets, for instance, to tell the future. But all of this research on prediction markets has been shut down because of people's bias on how terrible betting is. And I think it's similar to this cannabis side of things, where all this amazing knowledge that you guys are uncovering now is happening because it's starting to become serious and legalized.
Well, what's amazing is that they have managed to control the message for so long, right? They have managed to brainwash so many people into this being a drug. Only one of the cannabinoids is psychoactive. The other 100 aren't. They all got banned in one sweep, right? So, and they've managed to convince everybody that this is just a recreational excuse, and it's very frightening when you get into the space and you start running research programs in here. You recognize how many forces are actually working against you spreading that message. I mean, this Dash proposal, I just published a paper about this 5-month project, and I just put it into a preprint journal, right? And I've never had anything ever rejected from a preprint journal. But this is the first time, and it's because the first 2 paragraphs of this, we're talking about this exact problem, that there's constantly been yellow journalism and censorship about cannabis science. And it even happens on our social media platforms. Facebook's been banning cannabis ads and cannabis-related content for years. So it's pervasive, but very subtle in many different places. So when it affects the banking markets, no one wants to talk to you. Everyone's afraid that if they're doing press releases on this, they could potentially be supporting cannabis industries. When it affects a lot of these social media outlets as well, it really has a very pervasive silencing effect, and it perpetuates this kind of nonsense. But we are facing a new era here where we can probably correct a lot of this.
Do you think that what's your take on Trump and sort of Sessions' anti-marijuana, but then recently, I don't know, I saw some headline that Trump is going to consider being a little bit more friendly. Do you see any kind of changes on that front? And do you think that that would even have a trickle-down effect? Or do you think that all the other state organizations are sort of in the middle of everything would still make things difficult? Because that seemed to be one of the things I learned when I was at the last CannaMed with Lynn Ulbricht at Harvard. That was one of the things that I found really frustrating, was how much there was so much blocking people being able to even do research and stuff.
It's not just research. There's kids dying as a result of this. And I don't mean to sound Roger Verish here, but that's quite real. If you go to this conference, you'll see kids with epilepsy that are 13 years old that are passing away because they can't get access to consistent cannabidiol. And there was a case study last year that Dr. Gatanis went through, and a very famous person or patient in the field known as Cindy May, who passed away just before the conference. So it has a really profound effect. I don't think anyone can predict what's going to go on with Trump. He's his own animal. But I do think that if he's politically shrewd, he would save that card until he was really in hot water, right? I mean, legalize, you're automatically you win the next election. There's nothing more popular than cannabis. If more people vote for cannabis and vote for presidents, right?
100%.
He probably knows that. So, why would he play that card early? He'd probably wait until he's in hot water. Maybe he starts playing. Maybe he's just advertising right now that, hey, come bribe me. I'm thinking about this, right? Come bring your lobbying efforts to me. Because right now, I think we're seeing a shift where the alcohol industry, they used to lobby heavily against cannabis. After enough states legalized, they saw 10 to 15% decreases in their revenues per state, and then they switched from lobbying to buying cannabis companies. And that's been happening lately in Canada. You're seeing Corona and Heineken and all these beer companies moving in and buying up stock in these cannabis companies. The pharma industry is going to go through that next, because when CBD gets over the counter and cheap, it's going to take out Tylenol, it's going to take out ibuprofen, it's going to take out aspirin. A lot of these pain killing markets, which is about a $600 billion global market, they're all seeing 10 to 20% losses as well in every state that legalizes. So they're going to soon switch from lobbying for prohibition to buying companies. And I think when that happens, there's probably less money going into lobbying the swamp, and they're going to turn around and start asking for donations by, hey, help us legalize this faster. Tell us how to do this, which is usually a signal for, come give us money and we'll legalize it faster. And so that's the kind of dynamics that I see. But it's all speculation. I don't have really any tight inroads into that scene. I tend to really just focus on the research.
Talking of research, do you need a license? Do you need to pay money to be able to grow research material or get access to research material? And if so, how do other people join the efforts? How do other scientists join this effort to it, apart from going to CannaMed?
Most of them move to Canada, and you can get some work done with DNA, because DNA is legal. You can ship that around. You can also now ship hemp around. Hemp is basically cannabis that doesn't make any THC. It's below like 0.3% THC, and you can ship like stalk of a plant that made THC as long as it's been isopropanol rinsed to get rid of it. So those things can move around, and you can do some research on those things. But in terms of doing some really hardcore breeding work, you really need to be doing that in collaboration with a licensed grow. And those licensed grows are right now only state licensed. There aren't really any federally licensed grows in the country. So there is also some limitations on what you can do state by state. It's really hard to share resources between different entities across state lines. Like if you wanted to send a clone of the plant we sequenced across state lines, you can't do it. That thing's got to stay in Massachusetts until things lift.
Wow, what a total drag! I mean, seriously, just needless roadblocks in innovation. it's just really unfortunate. Okay.
It's a brain drain. It's a brain drain to Canada right now, and all the best companies are moving up there to get to get licenses and to basically get access to capital as well. Most of the money is flowing through the Toronto Exchange, and it's as of tonight, it's going to be fully legal. So it's going to be a much more inviting environment. And so I suspect you're starting to hear things from Trump because he's seeing the exodus. That if he's too far behind Canadians' legalization, the entire booming industry is going to move north.
Yeah, that's probably true. So I guess hopefully that'll end up in some way good. This is really cool. Kevin, we're about to bring on Naomi Brockwell. I don't know if you want to kind of stay with us, but before we do, I did want you to mention once again, Canamed and how people can get in touch with you and follow your work and just, support you in any way and learn more.
Sure. So CanMed is happening on, it starts on Monday, October 22nd. There's still tickets available. There's a lot of sponsors there that people may be familiar with, many from the DNA sequencing space, from Illumina to, I think we've got folks from PacBio and Phase Genomics also presenting, and Agilent and PerkinElmer. And then there's a host of other cannabis companies like Tilray and Papa and Barclays. And hit the website, cannedevents.com. That'll show you everyone who's going and everyone who's speaking, and you can get to the agenda there. And if you want to follow my work, we're at medicinalgenomics.com.
Yeah, our friends at Horizon, which is formerly Zencash, but Horizon, Rob, and some of the people from the team. Actually, maybe Rob won't be there, but I know that they've got a big presence. In
Rob's, I hope he's going to be there. He's a speaker, so I've got to.
Oh, okay, maybe I didn't know. I know he's traveling quite a bit lately, so I haven't kept up on the schedule. But that's good to hear. I'm sorry that I'm going to miss it, for sure.
Yeah, we'll miss you. Lynn will be there though, so we'll catch up with you in spirit.
Okay, great. So before we move on to our next guest, I just want to remind our listeners, we're moving to an audio format. I think it's going to be better for now. We may end up doing some video content, but that video content you can find on youtube.com/forevermoretatiana, and make sure that you're connecting with us on our socials. So there's Queen Tatiana and Valtoro, those are on Twitter, and then I'm on Instagram at Tatiana Morose Music. So I think we'll probably be making more pictures and stuff. You can see different pics and videos from when me and Josh were hanging out on the cruise, and we're going to be hanging out again, I think, hopefully in Halloween down at World CryptoCon after the Contra Krugman cruise. So it's going to be really cool. I also want to say a special thanks to our sponsors, the Bitcoin CPA and CryptoCompare.com. And also, I have a special one that I want to tell you guys about now. All right, we'll cut it in there. Thanks for listening to that. I know. Jesus. Thanks, guys. So I'm really excited for our next guest. Naomi Brockwell and I have known each other for a really, really long time. I'm sure you guys have seen her all over the place. Her red hair is sort of a signature look for her. She's one of the most prepared people that I know, and I love how polished she is. She works so hard, and her content is just so... you can tell how much love is put into it, and it's just definitely some of the best content out there in the space for cryptocurrency. She even did a really funny thing with Taylor Swift. So, Naomi, thanks so much for coming on the show with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Great. So for people who aren't familiar with you, maybe you can give me a little bit of background because, you're a creative person, but you also ended up in the blockchain space, mixing the two.
Yeah, I started out in the opera world and then ended up in crypto. So obviously a natural segue. But so I work full-time as a film and television producer. I'm a producer for John Stossel, and I have my own tech show that focuses mainly on blockchain tech. And I'm also producing a film at the moment. Well, it's a series, a crypto thriller noir called the Hard Fork series, and talking about Dash proposals. We actually received a Dash proposal a year ago. So going through that process myself was really exciting, and just getting this series, all of the money we've raised so far has been in crypto. So it's been pretty fun. But in a nutshell, film and television is my world there. And I sort of came at crypto from an Austrian economics background. And you mentioned the Contra Krugman cruise next week. I am very excited about that and excited to hear you play guitar there. You're going to be playing, right?
Yeah, no, I think there's actually 3 different sort of acoustic nights. And I got a message from Dan Hagen, who's been on the cruise a bunch of times, an amazing professional musician from down in Nashville. And they're bringing a few other musicians from Nashville, and we're doing like a little round robin thing. Maybe,
Oh, wow.
well, not to put you on the spot, but maybe you and I can kind of think about doing a little small duet or something. I can make up harmonies pretty easily, and I know that you're great. It can be kind of fun little.
Oh, I would love that. I've seen you perform. So I think the first time I saw you perform was 2014 at the Toronto Bitcoin Convention. Is that right?
That was such a long time ago. Yeah,
Oh
it was
my gosh,
before the wedding.
Oh, that was amazing. Yeah, so definitely you can count me in for that.
Very cool. Yeah, and then we also had been down in Florida. I know that you had just made a video sort of referencing the first blockchain wedding, or well, I don't even think it was called a blockchain wedding. I think it was just a Bitcoin wedding, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, like, I love Jason King's quote about that. Back then we didn't call it blockchain, we called it Bitcoin because that's all we had. So I think, yeah, we just called it the first Bitcoin wedding, and that was beautiful. And you sang so beautifully there. So yeah, really, really excited about this coming week. It's going to be a fun event.
I think so too. Do you know who else is going with us? Because I know that Tom Woods and Bob Murphy are leading the pack, and they've got all this funny stuff to add. We're going to learn all sorts of history and make fun of Krugman, and they had all these really fun games last year that we were playing. But
Awesome.
I don't know.
Well, I've actually had some people reach out to me on Twitter. So there was a little bit of a back and forth where one guy was saying, "Why don't you accept Bitcoin for this?" And we had to explain that, oh, absolutely, you can buy tickets using Bitcoin for this cruise. It was just through a major cruise liner, that didn't accept crypto. So I helped facilitate the purchase of some tickets. So there are some people online that have reached out who will be coming. So I think it's going to be a really fun group.
Oh, I'm super
so
excited.
bummed that I can't make that.
Why can't you make it?
Because we're sponsoring the Lightning Network Hack Day in New York at that time. Yeah, so we're hacking away at the Lightning
Well,
Network.
you are missing out. It is going to be awesome. But yeah, you were talking earlier about Dash proposals, and I was really excited to be part of one of the Dash proposals for the Hard Fork series that I'm producing, which is like this gritty sci-fi thriller series that I discovered through Steemit, actually.
Really?
Yeah, so
It works.
I got an account on Steemit like 2016 and forgot about it for a year, and then kind of remembered it. People started talking about it again, and I was like, oh, I think I signed up for that. And so I managed to find my private key, and then I just started exploring this site, and I found these like legit filmmakers on there. Doug Karr is an alumni at Sundance. Christopher James Baker he was just in Ozark, the Netflix series. He's in True Detective. He's in LA currently working on a project. And anyway, I was looking at their stuff, and they were putting together this blockchain sci-fi thriller. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a television producer by profession and absolutely obsessed with crypto. I have to be involved with this. So I just reached out to them and got involved, and now I'm a producer and actor on the series. And we actually raised our first $1 million through Dash, through one of those proposals for the series. So it's really exciting just to see. Sorry, go ahead.
No, where is the proposal? I'm sorry, where is the series being viewed and stuff like that? Where can people watch it? And is it out? How long?
Well, at the moment we're in development mode at the moment. So the idea is to go into production early next year. So it will likely be released at the end of 2019, but it all depends on distribution deals. And we're aiming for Netflix at the moment. Doug's currently in Cannes with a bunch of meetings with people. So looking pretty exciting at this stage. So I will be sure to keep you posted as I have more information about where people can check it out. But until then, just going to hardforkentertainment.io, and you can find information about it. But it's kind of like it came for me. I really wanted to be involved because all you hear about with crypto is the negative. You hear about, oh, it's a bubble, and like Nouriel right now is just going off about how everyone in crypto is a loser, and the mainstream media just talks about the drug dealers and how they're awful and, you know, money launderers are awful. And it's like, guys, this is the most empowering technology we've seen in the last 100 years. This is a way to decentralize trust. This is a way to completely revolutionize the traditional financial sector. Please do not discount this. Let's talk about all the ways that this can change lives, how this can give people back more freedom, more financial autonomy. So I think getting in control of that narrative and creating a mainstream audience accessible series that actually looks at the way that this could be a really empowering tech was what drew me to the project.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's
a crazy
super
narrative,
cool.
isn't it?
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
It's something we've been fighting for so long, this crazy narrative that just keeps on getting pumped out. But I can tell, you know, I also come from a television background. I worked here at Channel 9 for like 15 years. And really what I noticed is that as the internet rose, it became more and more about clickbait and finding a headline that people would want to click on. And of course, people just tend to gravitate towards some negative fear and click on that because they want to protect themselves. I guess it comes down to some primal nonsense where you know, and so these media organizations, they rather than saying, oh, you know, these things can fund amazing medical research, no, it's about how drug dealers are kind of, you know, make your kids addicted to some ridiculous
right. And when they
drug.
talk about like the unbanked, immediately our mind goes to, you know, Nigeria with corrupt governments and people not having access to bank accounts and lines of credit and the traditional financial, like the global financial marketplace. But really, you're talking about in America, in states where medical marijuana is actually legal and banks being shut down. You know, to have the freedom to run a business in a state where it's legal to run that business, but to have an impediment like a bank saying, nope, we're just not going to let you operate here I mean, it's so debilitating that now to have an alternative, I think is just really, really empowering for a lot of different industries.
Is Kevin still with us? I wonder if he's had any problems.
I don't know.
Well, I'm curious. I mean, you guys are a medical genomics company. Do you have problems with banking?
We do. So the thing is, we've crafted everything to be SEC compliant here, just based on the way that we're funded. We're like a Reg D private equity funded facility. So this is one of the reasons why we only do genomics, because we can legally touch the DNA here. So we don't tend to get nailed with banking, but a lot of our customers do. So we sell PCR tools to about 100 labs around the country that are measuring the microbial content on cannabis. Every pound of cannabis that goes to market has to get screened by this stuff. And so those go to hundreds of labs, and some of those labs, since they are touching the plant, sometimes have their banking revoked. And it makes a complete mess the market, because you have a production line getting to market, and suddenly your lab goes offline. You got to go find another lab. It kind of throws a huge curveball into these vertically integrated companies. You know, that's the other issue, is they force them to be vertically integrated. It's like asking a brewery to like raise the grain and also make beer. And so if you throw in one banking burp into there for their lab, they suddenly are train wrecked completely. So it's very cumbersome all around.
Yeah, Naomi, you mentioned, you know, how everyone thinks about unbanked to be Nigerians. Well, a lot of people don't know, but 7% of households in the United States are unbanked.
That's insane. I mean, that's
insane.
why I just think that people really underestimate.
In the U.S.?
The big
in the U.S. Would be
well, I mean,
would
already
be
institutions
dangerous
who are working within crypto entirely, like salt lending, for example, gives people access to liquidity and cash on hand without having to sell digital assets to get it. So that's really exciting. And I think like the main point of crypto is just to provide people options, right? I mean, we've had a monopoly on the money supply for so long, and we've had governments saying, you must use this as legal tender. You have no other option. We've had so many iterations of digital currencies that have come and gone because, you know, either they just couldn't get off the ground, or the government has actually shut them down. Because when you have a centralized institution, you have a focal point for people, the government, to attack and to target, and then eventually shut down. They can throw people in jail. They can do all kinds of things. So the fact that we now have a decentralized money that can't be shut down, that it's distributed, and that people have that option. You know, people don't have to use cryptocurrency. That's not the point. As you said, it's not about making everyone banked, or it's not about making everyone move to cryptocurrency either. It's about saying, hey, now we have choices, and you can actually choose what works best for you, rather than having someone tell you what you have to use. And I think that's the most powerful transition that we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that door that if, I really agree with you on that point. And it is this Keynesian view of economic theory where you say, well, a free market, everything can be free except for the money. The money needs to be monopoly.
We need government to control that, because the government does such a great job with the DMV and the MTA and all of that. Like, no, it's a terrible job. Let the market come in and provide us actual alternatives. Like, I always give the example that when people say like, oh, well, Bitcoin, I don't see why we need it. And it's like, well, you may not need it, but there are countries around the world where cryptocurrency is a lifeline. And let's just look at the fact that Bitcoin, people working in cryptocurrency are literally trying to figure out how to create the best money possible, how to create the best user experience possible. You do not see the government sitting around saying, oh, well, how can we make the user experience of the US dollar better? How do we make, they're just not talking about this. They're not like, oh, how do we really improve how merchants use US dollar when they accept it. But you have cryptocurrency innovators coming in and saying, we're creating entirely new forms of money, not just, platforms that are based on the traditional financial infrastructure or shoehorned into an archaic system. They're developing from the ground up entirely new monies. That's really exciting, because they're completely dedicated to exploring what is the best for the consumer, what we need. They're out there problem solving. All these problems we face all the time that people have just taken for granted and accepted it's the status quo. And finally, we're at a place where we can actually be innovating the money supply.
Yeah, absolutely. And this competition really, Hayek, the economist out of Europe, a lot of what he was saying was allowing banks to issue their own currencies and compete with each other. So if people start using the gold-backed fiat or money from one vaulting facility or one private banking facility, then and they start seeing that bank is starting to be dodgy or is investing in weird stuff, then the value of that would drop compared to other banks, and allow that competition. And of course, this is very annoying in terms of the old world, because people would have to trade this paper for another paper, and which currency do you take? And we see how useful it is to have one currency in the Europe zone. It is really useful on a normal sense. I can travel to Greece and use my euros there. I can travel to Italy, to Spain, to Germany. It's really useful. But we now have cell phones. We now have the ability to instantly trade this stuff and have a true competing currency. So in an economical sense, it's way better to have competing currencies, because you find a true market price for something instead of a manipulated monolith of a monopoly on currency.
Yeah, that is such a great point. And I think that people's vision of what currency is completely handicapped by their, by previous technological capacity. They're thinking about, as you said, physical forms, paper forms. We're in a digital age where things can be swapped out instantaneously, working underneath protocols, and we don't even know what's happening. So this is not an era where where we necessarily have to be gravitating towards a single currency anymore. And like Hayek, I mean, I've got one of my favorite quotes from him was an interview he did in 1989. He says, I don't believe we should ever have a good money again before we take the thing out of the hands of government. We can't take it out violently out of the hands of government. All we can do is by some sly roundabout way introduce something that they can't stop. And that's so brilliant and profound and prescient. And that's what Bitcoin is. It was something that came about that people just started using, that was decentralized, that they couldn't stop. This was not some violent revolution or some coup. This was, peaceful people coming together in this amazing, beautiful grassroots movement, creating an alternative. They were unhappy with the status quo, so they said, okay, we'll create something new. And I just think that's just so great.
So few people understand what's going on right now in this. I mean, you're seeing these cannabis stocks go up astronomically to, I think they have, the average cannabis stock trading in Canada right now is at 83x their revenues. That's their market cap. 83x. I mean, typically those are like 4 or 5x in a lot of industries, right? And most of these companies aren't even making money yet, and they have $14 billion valuations. It's utterly insane. And where is it coming from? That's coming from the Fed Reserve printing money and not raining it from helicopters, but feeding it through very particular arteries in the banking system that then elevate the stock prices. And then there's so much money chasing yield because they know there's going to be, effectively an inflation that's coming, that they start thrashing it around, and everyone's waiting for this next one to pop. But all the signs are there that we're back in 1999 again with these stocks that are at 80x valuations. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I've really noticed the inflation here in Australia. I haven't been back for 5 years, and when I left, you could buy a steak generally everywhere for around $22 Australian. And now you pretty much everything is around $20, $18. An avocado smash, which is just some avocado mashed up, put on some bread, costs you $18 to $20. It's ludicrous. And this isn't just some fancy place. This is just a little beach shack next to that has got a little cafe.
I think the only stable coin or stable commodity, it might be the Vegemite. That probably stays the same.
Yeah, that's right.
Vegemite, the new stable coin. Move on,
Yeah,
Tether.
that's right. Veggie coin.
Veggie coin.
There's a con of it across the way called Marmite. Watch out.
I'm doing an ICO and it's going to crush Marmite.
Yeah. Wonderful, Naomi. So where can people catch up with you? Where can people find out more about all this amazing stuff you're doing in terms of the creative work that you're doing?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel. It's Naomi Brockwell TV, and I post a new video every day there. Generally like interviews with people in the space, so thought leaders, and I do a lot of like man on street interviews, kind of seeing what the average person is thinking about Bitcoin, just to stay in touch with that. So if you want to check that out, it's just Naomi Brockwell TV, or Twitter, it's Naomi Brockwell. But I'm such a big proponent for all these decentralized social media apps and video platforms. So I'm on BitChute, yours.org, minds.com, Steemit, library.io, just a bunch of different, like memo.cash. So you'll be able to find me around on a lot of different platforms.
Yeah.
So you might have a monopoly on Naomi Brockwell, but you're decentralized in spirit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we just had the guy from minds.com, Bill Ottman, and we also had Matt Asher from beforetheband.com a week or so ago. And it's kind of ironic because after that, there was the big Facebook thing. Did you register with Before the Ban or any of that kind of stuff? I thought that was really neat.
I think it's probably after the ban, actually, but before they launched their token and got off testnet.
What I mean is there's a project called beforetheband.com, and if it basically lets you back up all your socials. So if you get banned or shadow banned, it has all your contacts and your content.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like different because, Minds and Steemit and all those things, those are good for sharing. But I think that the before the ban concept is this thing where you just throw it in one time and then that just covers you just in case. I mean, I just got off the phone with a friend of mine from the anti-media. And I mean, they're not even telling them when they're going to give them feedback about their Facebook channels, if they're going to give them back. And it was coordinated with Twitter. I mean, it's wild out there. Scary stuff. I have a Minds account now too.
I'm gonna look into the before the ban. That sounds really awesome. That's actually how I got onto BitChute. So I was looking at other platforms. All of my friends were getting kicked off YouTube,
What's
and I was. BitChute, it is like a decentralized video platform, and they upload all of your content natively there. And basically, you can link your YouTube there. And I just linked my YouTube, and they automatically, everything I post onto YouTube, they automatically upload it onto BitChute. And it just means that if I get kicked off, because like a lot of accounts of friends of mine were just disappearing, and that's the huge amount of time and effort that these people have put into building up their subscribers, and to just lose it all is devastating. So again, that sort of insurance of having all that content backed up, I just signed up. Super easy. I don't even have to worry about it, and all my videos are available there if something should happen to my account.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow.
So when
Very
YouTube
good.
just is a bunch of cat videos and makeup tutorials, we can go to other places to find actual
Absolutely.
content.
And find cat videos and makeup tutorials as well as other content.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listen, everybody, thanks so much for listening in. Thank you to our sponsor, stamps.com. Really quick, make sure that you are checking us out on the tatianashow.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Queen Tatiana and Voltoro. You can also go to voltoro.com if you want to trade some gold, or check out cryptomediahub.com to find out more of some of the work that I'm doing with the blockchain space. And thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. So long. Pleasure meeting you, Naomi.
Yeah, lovely to meet you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I'll talk to you soon. Sorry that it was like slightly disorganized today. It was a first time run through, so I appreciate your patience. Thanks so much.
No worries. See you all.
Awesome.
All right.
Take
Cheers,
care.
guys.
Thanks. I'll send you I'll send you
Naomi.
links and stuff when it goes out, and I'll social media tag you guys and stuff. Okay.
All right.
Excellent.
We'll be
Take
promoting.
care.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, guys. Ciao.
Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. We gotta think and reflect and use lots of intellect with our hearts when we work together. I know that it can be so hard out there, looking all around and saying that life ain't fair. So that is why we will fight and stay up late at night, listening to the Tatiana Show.